Today's video is using wire netting, often referred to as chicken wire, instead of floral foam. If you want to learn a more sustainable option for creating floral designs, then this is the arrangement for you. Welcome back. It's always so lovely to see you. Now today we're going quite old school and we're going to do a very traditional arrangement using wire netting. Now I have noticed that the designs that I create using environmentally friendly products aren't as popular as the ones that are created in floral foam. Now we are trying to move away from using too much single-use plastic in the floristry world, so it's nice to be able to learn some techniques using a more sustainable and environmentally friendly option. But what I've decided to do is to recreate this design for a forthcoming video where I'm going to use floral foam, because there still seems to be a huge amount of interest, particularly for beginners and those of you who aren't used to working with the wire netting. Now it's commonly referred to as chicken wire, and the gap in the chicken wire needs to be about 1 inch. If you're using really wide stemmed or big chunky branches, then you'll need to have a bigger gap in your wire netting. And one of the main issues I think with arranging in chicken wire is your flowers tend to flop around and they don't stay very secure. Can you hear that? That's driving me mad. Somebody's car alarm is going off outside. So if your flowers are moving around, then you've got too big a gaps in your chicken wire. If you're forcing your flower stems in, then there's a good chance that the gaps are too small. So roll your wire so that you have several layers and then arrange it into your container. You're roughly looking at sort of 3 times the height of your container. So cut some, fold it over and then insert it into your container. Try not to use the copper mesh that is a Oasis floral product, because that's made to create constructions with. It's not really made for mixing with water because it does rust. I've got paper covered, no I haven't got paper covered, I've got plastic coated chicken wire, which is now a little bit harder to get hold of because this main supplier for this has closed down. But just look on the internet, look in your local DIY store, and you'll be able to find some, and you can reuse it time and time again as long as it's thoroughly washed in between and preferably sterilised in between uses. Now I've got a few lightweight flowers in here, so my mesh is squished together a little bit more, but I've also got some very large hydrangeas that are going to go into the base. So what I've actually done is I've left a bit of a gap here on one side so that I've got room to put my hydrangeas in if I can't get them into the wire netting. You've really got to understand that when you're making this design, it sort of builds up in layers and things are going to move around. They're not going to stay perfectly in place until you've added everything and all the stems are interconnecting and being held together at the base. So most importantly, let's get some fresh water in, and always use flower food. If you're not sure about care and conditioning, then I do have a guide over on the website that you can purchase, and it's all about care and conditioning your flowers. It's essential that your container is thoroughly cleaned in between uses, so there's no bacteria in there. And the flower food will feed your flowers, it'll keep the water clean, and it'll balance off the pH level. Lots of people add sugar. All you're going to do is cause your flowers to have a sugar rush. They're going to get really excited, open fast, and then die prematurely, and you're going to get a lot of bacteria and gunk in your container. So try, if possible, it's a little bit of an old wives' tale, to stay away from too much sugar, sugary drinks in your water. Right, we're going to start with some big hydrangeas. I've got mainly seasonal flowers today, and the hydrangeas are going to form my base. Now I do have 2 stems of hydrangea. I might only use 1. But what this is going to do, this is going to give me some weight there at the bottom, and it's going to help almost create like a lattice work for my flowers to sit in. So not only do I have that wire netting, I also have the actual head of the hydrangea, and straight away I can't find a gap to put my hydrangea in. That's a bit too long. Now hydrangeas, if you haven't been following me before, hydrangea is a bract, so it's a modified leaf. The flower is very insignificant in the middle, and this is actually a leaf. So you can hydrate it by dipping the whole head in water to rehydrate and bring it back to life. So if it's looking a bit sad, submerge it overnight in a deep bucket of water. Hydrangeas are seasonal. They should be available if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, if you've got a garden at the moment, or you could buy them from a florist shop. And they come in such a delightful colour combination. And what that one hydrangea has done is completely covered my wire netting. It means I don't have to use lots of flowers there at the base to cover my floral foam. Now currently it's dahlia season, and look at these. Aren't these magnificent? Now these have come from my cousin's farm. They're normally crop growers, they're arable growers, but they've set aside a bit of land to grow some dahlias, and believe it or not, we've actually had some sunny weather here in Wales, so the plants and the flowers have come on really quickly, and they told me, come down and pick what I want and see what I can do with them. So today we're going all white in this gorgeous sort of Constant Spry inspired container that I feel represents a boat or a crescent shape, and that's the sort of shape that I'm going to go with, but it's going to be asymmetrical because I don't have an equal quantity of these glorious, look at those, these glorious dahlias. So I'm starting to create a little bit of movement. It's going to be flat in the middle and it's going to raise up on the opposite side. Now there is a slight bit of damage to the back of that dahlia, but it's still quite firm, so it's quite good quality. And what I'm going to do is use it on the opposite side quite tall. So let's spin it back round so I can see. I'm going to make use of that full stem to give me a little bit of asymmetric balance. So it's taller on one side, and I've just got to feed it through that wire support. And not only will the wire support it, but it'll slightly rest against my container. It's going to look a bit strange at the moment because I've got two very big flowers on the opposite side, and we're not used to doing that. We're used to having more visual balance, but I'm going to bring some flowers in the middle to connect them together. If I'd used my really large dahlia in the middle, it would almost be lost on top of that hydrangea. So by raising it up, gives me a bit of contrast. And if you're working on church flowers, this is a good way of making your design quite large with a minimal selection of flowers. Everything I've got today is locally grown. So we're in end of sort of, well, it's not even the end of summer because summer hasn't really started. It's the beginning of August. So everything has come either from friends' gardens, my gardens, or from my family members' farm. Now, arranging in this style is very, very fashionable at the moment, particularly if you're somebody that's interested in looking after the environment, because it means that there are no single-use plastics to get to throw away. And if we're doing wedding flowers, it's a good way of the family members being able to take an arrangement home with them, or just lifting the flowers out and taking them home and arranging them when they get home. Now, what I'm starting to do here is just to feed some slightly smaller heads of the dahlia through the middle. Look at that little one. How amazing is that? And that has a slight pink edge to it. And because this is a younger flower, it's got more of a yellow tinge to it. But as that opens and matures, it's going to become more pure white like the larger ones on the outside. But because I knew it was going to have a bit of a yellow tone, I'm going to introduce some of the smaller heads as a secondary sort of flower with the yellow centre. So this sort of limey yellowy one here doesn't look quite so out of place. Now, traditionally in floral design, the bigger flowers come towards the middle, but I'm almost getting inspired from those amazing Dutch Flemish paintings where all the statement flowers were exhibited at the top of the arrangement, and it's going to make a real statement piece. I'm also going to use the little buds because it's a different texture and a different colour, and the shape of the head is different. So don't throw these. Oh, I'm going to have to throw that one away because it's snapped. I was going to say don't underestimate using the little buds, but that's not any good. It's past its best. And then I've also got these amazing cactus dahlias. Oh, I'm in absolute heaven today. Now, if you follow me on any type of social media, so I'm over on Instagram and Facebook, you might have seen a short little video of me popping out into the field to collect these. And if you're not following me on Instagram or Facebook, then you are missing out on some hints and tips that I share quite regularly on the page. So pop over there and find me. And of course, you need to be following me here on YouTube as well. I nearly forgot where I was then, but I'm on YouTube. So there's lots of places to come and watch videos and learn about floral design. And today I'm particularly excited because not only do I have locally grown flowers, but they've been grown by my cousin. So they're extra special for me. And it was a delight being able to pop out into the field and pick whatever I wanted to have. Now, where are we up to? This one again, even though it's a white dahlia, there's a slight pink edge to it. And that will probably disappear as it opens, but let's get that in on that one side. And the heads are nodding forward slightly, and that's really because the head is quite heavy. But I like that. I think when you're doing a very traditional floral design, it's quite nice to show the flowers in their natural way. So I'm not going to wire them or bend them forward. I'm going to leave them flopping forward. And what I've achieved, hopefully, is quite a light and airy design. The hydrangea there at the base almost acts like foliage and it covers that mechanic. It also gives me some base weight at the bottom, but it allows my flowers to very casually sit amongst the hydrangea in that really light and airy manner. And I love this style. This is really one of my favourites. To add a bit of softness in here, I've got what I tend to refer to as cow parsley, but I think it's probably Dorcas, which is the wild carrot. If you're a florist, you will buy something very similar called Ami Magus or Queen Anne's lace. But this one grows in the country lanes where I live. So not only did I go and pick some lovely dahlias, but I foraged for some of what I call cow parsley on the side of the road. And this one again has a slight pink tinge to it, which is why I feel it's more likely to be Dorcas, the wild carrot, than actual cow parsley, because that tends to be white. But if you don't have this anywhere where you live, then you can buy something very similar from a florist shop, which is called Ami Magus, or you might even have it growing in the garden. Gyp would work just as well. There's a lovely flower that's really fashionable at the moment called Orlea. And I've grown some of it this year, but it's not quite established enough for me to cut. And what I'm creating is different heights and different layers, bringing this lovely lacy textured flower from one side to the other. And it's going to break up the very heavy dahlias. I nearly said tulip. I don't quite know where the word tulip came from. But this is light and airy, it's soft and wispy, and it's a really good contrasting flower alongside those big, heavy dahlias. Now, if you're in the UK, you might have dahlias growing in your garden. They aren't something that you can generally buy in a supermarket, but you will get them in a florist shop. Or if you're lucky enough to have a local flower farm like I do, then you'll be able to buy them there. And I always think this style of arranging is very calming and restful. And I'm hoping that that restfulness and that mindfulness is projected in these videos and you find them nice and calming and enjoyable to watch. Now this lovely long piece here is going to come off up into one side, just again to give me some height on this taller side. and to strengthen that asymmetrical crescent that I've hoped to create. This one on the camera might be nodding forward a little bit too much for you to appreciate what it looks like. So I think I might cut that one just a little bit shorter. I've always got to remember that the camera angle is slightly different to the position I'm looking at it from. So I'm going to move that one. I'm going to sit it on top of that hydrangea and it's going to work really nicely there. Now, if you had foliage, there would be nothing wrong with you adding some greenery in, but I'm going to keep it just to the fresh flowers. Lots of you, I know, struggle to get hold of any type of greenery. So it's always nice to see an arrangement that doesn't use any. But you do need that very large head of something to cover your mechanics. For some of the ladies that come here and do arranging with me in the studio, I quite often suggest to them that it's worthwhile buying a couple of artificial pieces of greenery or some large hydrangeas like this, because that will help cover your mechanics. And if you're struggling to get hold of greenery, it's a good way to work. Now, I know those of you that have studied traditional floral design are going to say to me that you can't have the largest flower on the outside. But if you're following the 3/5/8 rule, then yes, you can have bigger flowers on the outside and you don't have to worry about only using them in the focal point. And I think when you've got such big heads like this, it's really nice to show them off in the arrangement and use them on the outside. Now, this arrangement is really stable. The balance is really good. And balance is one of the elements and principles of design. And don't forget, there's that book over on Amazon that you can buy that explains all of the elements and principles of design. And it's an ebook, so you just download it to your laptop. But the reason I'm discussing balance is because sometimes when you're using wire netting that hasn't been attached to the container, the flower arrangement itself can tip forward. So these little pieces that I've kept here on my left are quite good for adding in the back. They add weight so the arrangement doesn't tip forward, and they also give the arrangement depth. So when you look at it from the front, it gives a three-dimensional effect and prevents the design being really flat. Now, I'm hoping you've enjoyed that one. I know that these designs in wire netting aren't as popular as the ones in floral foam. And if you would prefer to see that made in foam, then pop back and you'll be able to see it in a future video. But that's my very mindfulness arrangement for this afternoon. I hope you've really enjoyed. And it's at this point I'm going to say goodbye to you. But before I do that, I'm going to ask you to subscribe to the channel, hit that notification button to be told every time I upload a new video. Like and share, find me across social media, and ask any questions in the comment box, because that really does help this channel grow and build an amazing floral community. So thank you for watching. I look forward to seeing you for the next tutorial. Bye for now.